One of the biggest fan pastimes is discussing the endless possibilities if a certain event didn't happen or happened differently. What if they drafted that player? What if he made that tackle? Or that catch? It's crazy how one decision or one move can alter the entire complexion of every single team in the league. So, that got us thinking, what are the biggest what-ifs in NFL history? What if the Bears drafted Patrick Mahomes? The 2017 draft had three capable first-round quarterbacks. The Chicago Bears possessed the third overall pick, guaranteeing them the shot to get at least one to fill the void at the position. Ultimately, they gave up 4 draft picks to move up one single spot and selected North Carolina quarterback Mitchell Trubisky. With a ravaging defense already in place, Trubisky has been reason number one the Bears can't get over the Super Bowl hump. His struggles have been talked about non-stop, and the Bears recently brought in Nick Foles to battle for his spot. What's worse for Bears fans is that Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson were in that draft, and both look to be home run franchise quarterbacks. Not only was Trubisky taking over Mahomes, the Bears didn't even work out Mahomes because they were dead set on Mitch Trubisky. But what would it have looked like if the Bears selected Mahomes instead? I think most would agree that they probably would have won a Super Bowl, and not Kansas City. Chicago's defense has been elite the past 3 seasons, and Mahomes' gunslinging ability would have surely put them in the pole position to win a championship. We know the Bears are kicking themselves while still trying to salvage the young quarterback they have. What if the Seahawks ran the ball? One of the most criticized decisions ever. The Seahawks were driving for a game-winning touchdown late in Super Bowl 49. With seconds left on the clock, the Hawks found themselves on the 1-yard line. Instead of giving the ball to beast mode Marshawn Lynch, who would be almost impossible to hold being the locomotive he was, the Seahawks put the ball in the hands of a young Russell Wilson. Cornerback Malcolm Butler jumped the slant pattern and put himself into Super Bowl lore, intercepting the pass. A lot of people around the Seahawks say this exact moment created a huge rift between the players and the coaches. Richard Sherman would soon leave, Lynch fizzled out with the Hawks, and every member of the Legion of Boom soon departed. The Seahawks have yet to make another Super Bowl appearance, regularly losing in the NFL playoffs. But what if they had gave the ball to Marshawn and ran it in for the repeat Super Bowl victory? Firstly, the legacy of all their stars and coach Pete Carroll would be even further solidified, and the Seahawks core could have stayed intact. Without dissension in the locker room, they could have challenged for a three-peat and a chance at an illustrious dynasty. That pass pretty much passed the team of the 2010s over to the Patriots. What if Scott Norwood hit the field goal? The Bills are known for having the greatest team to never win, going to and proceeding to lose 4 straight Super Bowls in the 90s. In their first Super Bowl, they played an incredibly tight game against the New York Giants, down 19-20 with just seconds left on the clock. The Bills lined up kicker Scott Norwood to hit the game-winning field goal. As we all know, the kick went wide right. The Giants won the Super Bowl, and the Bills would go on to lose the next 3 Super Bowls by wide margins. But what if Norwood had split the uprights? Obviously, the Bills would have at least 1 Super Bowl win, and it's hard to think that the momentum they had wouldn't have carried over in the big game for the next few years. But there's more small timeline changes that would have been changed with a Norwood make. A young Bill Belichick was the Giants' defensive coordinator, and had they lost, there's a good chance that he would have stayed to try and win the following year, instead of becoming a head coach with the Cleveland Browns. That change could have very well backed up Patriots owner Robert Kraft ever meeting Belichick. If they never meet, the Patriots dynasty as we know it couldn't have existed. But mostly, the hardcore Buffalo Bills fans would have something a lot more tangible to hold on to: a Lombardi trophy. What if the Immaculate Reception had fallen incomplete? The most famous play in football could have gone plenty of different ways. At the time, the rules stated that if a forward pass was touched by another player, he was the only eligible player allowed to catch it. On the play, Steelers receiver John Fuqua and Oakland Raiders defender Jack Tatum contested the catch point, making it hard to tell who touched it. Secondly, once the ball bounced off of somebody, it got dangerously close to the ground when Franco Harris snagged it. Without the quality video and replay that we have today, there's no possible way to tell if it hit the ground or not. The Steelers would go on to win the playoff game, igniting their Super Bowl run of the 70s, which included 4 championships in 6 years. But what if the refs called it incomplete? Some believe that 70s Steelers were too stacked for it to make much of a difference, but many believe that the Oakland Raiders would have stood a better chance at beating the undefeated Dolphins. So, potentially if the Immaculate Reception never happened, there would have never been a perfect season in the NFL. The Immaculate Reception was one of the NFL's first controversial plays, and it ignited a dynasty that changed the NFL forever. What if Bo Jackson stayed healthy? Maybe the most potential erasing moment in sports history, Jackson's career-ending hip injury in the late 80s robbed the world of the greatest athlete to ever live. Following his controversy with the Buccaneers, Bo Jackson only played 4 seasons in the NFL. In that short span, he drew huge crowds and became one of the biggest sports pop culture icons ever. Jackson is the only player to become both an MLB All-Star and an NFL Pro Bowler. What's even crazier is he did that in the exact same year, simultaneously playing professional baseball and football in the NFL. If he never had the hip injury, or even if he had the technology that we do now to help him in rehab, there's no reason to think Bo couldn't have played both sports professionally for at least another decade. Already widely regarded as the greatest athlete of all time, another decade of his insane feats on camera and he could have reached the same superstar status as Michael Jordan. There's no reason to think that Jackson couldn't have had an MVP season in both sports, or even became the first player to be inducted in both the MLB and the NFL Hall of Fame. What if Eli Manning went to the Chargers instead of the Giants? Eli Manning's father, Archie Manning, refused to let his son play for the San Diego Chargers. When they still drafted Eli, he held out until the New York Giants swapped him for Phillip Rivers and a slew of picks. While both of them have had great careers, each in the top 10 career passing list, the levels of team success has been anything but equal. Manning won 2 improbable Super Bowls over the Patriots, both where he had clutch moments and won the MVP, while the Chargers have never been able to top the Patriots with Rivers at the helm. And his postseason struggles are well documented. If they both stayed where they were drafted, how different would their careers be? It's impossible to say that the Giants could have pulled off the upset with Rivers. But would Eli's clutch abilities have helped the Chargers get over the top? Or was Manning's success partly due to where he ended up playing? Quarterbacks Kurt Warner and Drew Brees, who River and Manning succeeded, were also affected by these moves. Both would get the opportunity to play in Super Bowls, but with different rookies behind them change the clocks of their careers. There's no doubt that Manning's reluctance to play for the Chargers changed the fate of multiple NFL franchises. What if Dwight Clark didn't make the catch? It's the ultimate NFL films highlight. Montana pumping multiple times before firing off his back foot into what looked like oblivion, until the outstretched hands of Dwight Clark appeared from thin air to catch the ball. The indelible moment pushed the 49ers over the powerhouse Cowboys and into their first Super Bowl victory. But what if the throw, or the catch, wasn't perfect? What if it was dropped? Most people don't realize that the true 49ers dominance didn't begin until the second half of the 80s, with 3 Super Bowls from 85 to 90. If they didn't win the first in 82, and the first half of the 80s were only filled with shortcomings and injury, might the 49ers have moved on from Montana and Walsh? While it's hard to believe, it's incredibly possible with Walsh's rocky start and Montana's early injury issues. They may not have had the chance to create the Montana-Rice connection, maybe the greatest duo ever, and one of the greatest dynasties of all time would have merely remained what could have been. What if Jerry Jones never fired Jimmy Johnson? After 33 seasons, Jerry Jones moved on from Tom Landry immediately after buying the Dallas Cowboys, hiring young head coach Jimmy Johnson. This turned out to be a great move, as Johnson led the Cowboys to 2 straight Super Bowl wins just 4 years later. Unfortunately, the 2 alpha dogs couldn't coincide. The dissension between Johnson and Jones led to Jones firing their Super Bowl winning head coach at the top of their mountain. No team has ever won 3 straight Super Bowls, and Johnson leaving was way too much for a very tight-knit group to recoup for the three-peat. While they won a title the following year without Jimmy Johnson, many Cowboy fans feel this bad karma has set a black cloud over America's team ever since. What if the two reconciled and Johnson remained the head coach? For one, the chance at a three-peat was very real. The core of the Cowboys roster loved Johnson. Most described him as a father figure to this day. That cohesiveness is likely the difference between a playoff team and a championship team. Since the final Super Bowl win, the Cowboys have only won 4 playoff victories in over 2 decades, and Cowboy fans are left wondering, what if? What if Drew Bledsoe never got hurt? The most storybook Hollywood scripted season of all time starts with Patriots starting quarterback Drew Bledsoe being injured in the second week of the 2001 NFL season. The rest is well-documented history. Unknown underdog sixth-round pick Tom Brady steps in and leads the Patriots to a Super Bowl championship. This began the career of the GOAT 6 championships later. What if Drew Bledsoe wasn't sidelined with an injury? Well, the entire Belichick-Brady era may have never begun. Belichick was on his second stint as a head coach after the Cleveland Browns disbanded. His first year with the Patriots was underwhelming, and he was being labeled as a better coordinator than head coach by the media. Another losing season with Bledsoe at the helm, who had taken the Pats to the Super Bowl earlier in his career, might have been the nail in the coffin for Belichick. It's certainly a possibility that the NFL as we know it might be completely different if Bledsoe didn't take that jarring hit from New York Jets linebacker Mo Lewis. Looking back on it now, I bet Jets fans and so many others wish Brady never even got the chance to become the greatest of all time. What if the NFL never merged with the AFL? Many new fans of the NFL don't even know how different the league looked 50 years ago. Many of our favorite teams like the Chiefs, Jets, Bills, Titans, and Patriots didn't originate in the NFL at all. They were actually members of the American Football League, a rival league that was seen as the little brother to the NFL. That is, until the New York Jets and Joe Namath upset the Baltimore Colts in Super Bowl III. The two leagues soon merged together in 1970 to form the NFL as we know it today. What if they had never merged, remaining as two rivaling leagues? Is it possible that we would call the Premier Football League the AFL? Could they have further challenged and maybe even dethroned the behemoth NFL? More importantly, the team-up helped skyrocket the popularity of football as a whole. The NFL started to fill up television sets and state-of-the-art stadiums. The second-tier cities that homed the AFL teams helped flame that passion for football all across America, quickly dethroning baseball as its favorite pastime. This has led to the huge revenue numbers and influence that owners and football stars alike have garnered. The merger of the NFL and AFL helped formulate pop culture as we know it today. The NFL would simply not be as big as it is without the merger, and for that, and for the love of all things football, it's the biggest what-if in NFL history. So, let me know in the comment section down below what you think are the biggest what-ifs in NFL. As always, thanks for watching Nonstop Sports. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, and hey, what if you subscribed as well? Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.